Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Friday. It's Alyssa Corum here, and I am joined by Ed Carson. And on today's Stock Market Today show, we're going to go a little bit more in depth on the broad market action to help you with your battle plan for the week ahead after this week of trade. And then we're also going to be looking at two setups for Zoetis and then also Horizon Therapeutics. But Ed, kick us off with some analysis of the Nasdaq. We're going to look at a daily chart here to start.
Yeah, this is a daily chart for Thinkorswim from a TD Ameritrade, and this shows candlesticks, and so you can sort of see how the stocks in the market performed during the day, and you can see that we closed near the session high. It was still sort of an inside day, really positive action. The one thing that you have to look at here, these are regression lines, and as you can see, when we've got up toward them in the past, we've had situations where we've had pullbacks, not a huge deal, but we've pulled back to the 21-day line. So that is the only concern. Everything is going really well. There is a little bit of extension from these situations, but really strong in that regard. I'm going to go to a weekly to try to show a couple of really.
We also like looking at the weekly candles to see if there's anything abnormal that we can determine from that. But it was another really strong weekly bar.
Yeah, and the only thing that you would say to be concerned, because these last couple of weeks have been really strong, the only thing that you have to worry about is if we do hit these regression lines, there's just that chance you're going to see a pullback. And so investors just need to have a game plan for when they go through that. Everything's probably going well. Stocks are generally moving higher. It's just like, well, what happens if the market goes down? And as you can see here, you could, if it would take quite a bit to get back to down to the 21-day line or the 50-day line. And if you did that, that would be a situation where a lot of stocks could suffer much bigger losses. This is, instead of a 4 or 5% loss, you might see stocks go 10, 15%. So you don't want to be looking at that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what we do know is that when we have gotten to this half standard deviation above that regression line, that line of best fit, that starts at that follow-through day on April 6th, that when we've gotten to that higher level, that's when we've seen these pullbacks, as you've said. And so far, those have been buying opportunities. So that's something else that investors should be thinking about, but we won't know if we are actually going to get a bounce when we come down, or as you were saying, maybe we undercut that level, maybe we take a visit to the 50-day, which wouldn't be that abnormal.
No, I wouldn't. And you can argue that this uptrend has been really strong, perhaps too strong, unsustainable for the long term. Obviously, it's sustained for so far, but at some point it might level off or go sideways. So investors just have to be ready for that. Again, they should be active, they should be engaged. Everything is going well. It's just something to be aware of. Something else to be aware of, just a little yellow warning sign, is what we call Webby's RSI. This is sort of a relative strength indicator from Mike Webster, and it basically measures how far from the low and how far above the 21-day line is that day's low. And this day we're starting to get up there. It's when you get up to the yellow line, that's a bit of a concern. It's not so bad early in a rally when the market's just powering ahead, but further along you start wondering about, well, wait a second, maybe it shouldn't be getting extended from that situation. So that's right, just a little bit.
Yeah, underscoring how far above that 21-day we are right now. And then you talked about getting extended from long-term levels. So why don't we go ahead and flip on over to MarketSmith so we can take a look at the Nasdaq on a monthly chart, because that's another great perspective to show here. We like looking at those daily charts in addition to the weekly and monthly to really put together the different pieces of the puzzle. And when you look at that, I mean, it's very clear there, that trend line that you've drawn, we are now poking above that level this month.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this on IBD Live, the short term and the long term. This one is an issue because we got up there in July, sort of moved sideways in the second half of July, but now we've powered through. In previous times when we've done that, sometimes we pull back and sometimes you can ride alongside it. So it doesn't mean that you have to sell off, like you hit a wall and fall down, but this is unusual to have that kind of strength through there. It's just a warning sign that maybe the market will pull back. Again, everything is going well right now. So it's not like, oh, you have to panic, but you should have a game plan. What stocks are the ones that you really think are doing well? Which stocks are you too exposed to one particular sector? Is your overall exposure getting too high? You may want to sell into strength at times rather than have the market come down 3 or 4% and you start feeling, oh my God, to sell everything. And then the market rebounds right away. You want to have a game plan so you can continue to have strong success in this market.
Right. And if we could just quickly go to the daily chart for the Nasdaq in closing here, in terms of the battle plan come Monday. With the analysis, we've looked at the different time frames, the different bar charts, all of that put together. What's the expectation heading into Monday?
Gosh, I will say there's a lot of things that are going to be happening on Monday. The Apple and Tesla stock splits that we've had, like right now, you'd expect the market to continue higher. We've been trending higher. Nothing has really stopped. We're closing near the week's high. The Apple and Tesla stock splits, there's a lot of news that might be coming out, a Microsoft TikTok deal. But, you might expect that, but a strong open isn't always the best thing. Sometimes a strong open leads to reversal. So I think it'll be a very interesting week next week, even as earnings season is dying down.
Yeah. And I mean, we are talking about all of this in detail every morning on IBD Live, where we are in those regression channel lines. And we also want to look at how the S&P 500 is doing, because perspective on the Nasdaq is one thing. And I mean, that is kind of the core of our broad market analysis. But we do also like keeping a pulse on where we are with the S&P 500. And I mean, it's just been acting beautifully really since that breakout not all too long ago, just continuing to climb in new high territory.
Yeah, really impressive for the S&P 500. That's a positive that it's not too concentrated. Obviously, a lot of the big momentum has been in some of these big techs like Apple and Facebook, but nonetheless, to have this broad index doing so well, it's just a reflection about how strong this market rally has been.
And while the market rally continues to be strong, we want to take a look at a couple of setups that are on our radar heading into the coming week, starting off with Horizon Therapeutics, ticker HZNP. Now, talk to us a little bit about this setup here, because if you rewind a couple of weeks, Horizon had a really strong week, and it looks like it's been able to hold tight pretty tightly since.
Yeah, I probably moved on earnings a couple of weeks ago, and you can see that their revenue growth has accelerated. And now in the last few weeks, it's been trading very tightly. This was our IBD stock of the day today. It goes after rare diseases. It has a new drug that's doing really well. And it's just really positive action. You can see this RS line, the relative strength line, it's been outperforming for quite a while. It performed well during the crash, and it's performed well here. And one of the nice things is that you don't have to sacrifice. This is not a laggard. This is not a slow pokey stock, as we sometimes say. This is a growth stock, but it may provide some diversity in your leadership. If you've got all chips and internets and software, this is some kind of stock that if it breaks out above this little short consolidation, might provide a real nice diversity for your portfolio.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And then another stock that we want to bring to your attention is Zoetis, in the medical ethical drugs industry group, ticker ZTS. And it also has been trading quite tightly here over the last couple of weeks. It did get a bit of love from investors after the earnings report, even though the numbers weren't too great, but it's been trading nice and tight around this 160 level.
That's right. And this is an animal drug giant. So they are really the experts in that. And this is actually a 4 weeks tight pattern now. So this right over this point at 164.08 is an actual buy point. If it goes for another week, it would have a flat base, a traditional flat base. The stock has done all right. It did well during the crash. It's just sort of kept in line with the market. But you can see it has really, just a solid outperformance. This is how it's outperforming versus the S&P 500. It's not going to excite you on a day-to-day basis. I mean, there may be a day or two that it excites you, but generally it's not going to be a real exciter. But this is, it's the kind of stock that over weeks, over months, really has delivered well. And this is why it's on the long-term leaders watch list that is, filled with really stocks that, really outperform over time.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly as you've described. We're looking for those stocks that have a track record of long-term outperformance, strong fundamentals, and a strong track record with that as well. So earns a spot on that watch list. And I like how you're talking about, the way to really think about these. It's not those high octane growth stocks that might have short-lived moves, but you're kind of treating these a little different in your portfolio.
Yeah, and sometimes with long-term leaders, the best time to buy them is off a 10-week line pullback. So ideally, Zoetis would just move
Hmm.
sideways from here or drift lower and let this 10-week line catch up. But that it is a ways away from that right now. But you can definitely buy it off of this buy point as well.
Well, we'll have to see what next week brings for that stock and the market in general, because as Ed, you mentioned those stock splits happening on Monday. That might set the stage for an interesting week.
Absolutely. I think you're definitely going to be paying attention to that.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's been another great trading week, and we hope you enjoyed our little bit more in depth market analysis on Friday. We're going to continue doing that to cap off the week each week on this show. And of course, we will be analyzing the market in real time and in detail every morning on IBD Live over at investors.com/IBD Live. And I have a feeling, Ed, that there's going to be quite a bit to talk about come Monday.
I think so. As I was saying, Apple, Tesla, probably a TikTok deal. So a lot to talk about.
All right, everyone. Well, we hope you join us again over at investors.com/IBD Live, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.